I'm Claudia Donnell, and welcome to That's Tasty. Boy, did we have ourselves a winter or what? But guess what? It's finally spring. Yay! So in honor of that, I'm making a sort of a nice springtime, easy, light meal for you. We're going to have roasted asparagus, chicken cutlets with a brandy wine sauce, and Italian sponge drop cookies. So we're going to start with the asparagus. Remember I told you, you start with that which takes the longest to cook. So I have my oven preheated at 375 degrees, and I have my asparagus. The easy way for you to make sure you get rid of the woody part, which is really not tasty and it's very fibrous, is to just bend your asparagus spears, and it'll tell you where it's not, this is not the good stuff. Now if you're into making vegetable stock, save the bottoms, and you can use that in your vegetable stock ingredients. So we have our asparagus. We're going to take some nice little olive oil and just sprinkle it. That was probably a teaspoon of olive oil, a pinch of salt, maybe an eighth of a teaspoon I have here in my hand. I'm going to sprinkle it with that. Another teeny pinch of black pepper. And we're going to call it a day. I'm going to take it now and I'm going to put it in the oven. It's going to roast 375 for about 15 minutes or so. Got to keep my eye on it because those are thin. If they're thicker, of course, you're going to want them to cook a little bit longer. I'm used to the big heavy ones, but because asparagus is a very big springtime vegetable, this is when they flourish. These are very thin. They're not old, they're very delicate and thin. So that's what we're going to, that's there. Now we're going to make our sponge drop cookies. I'm going to just move these over here, get them out of the way. Okay, back over here. Sponge drop cookies. I grew up with sponge drop cookies as a spring, mostly Easter kind of treat. Because you'll see as we go along that they end up looking like Easter eggs, dyed Easter eggs. And I have to be honest with you, I love these. These are so delicious to me. They're not sweet. They just have a really nice spongy consistency, and they're easy to make. So the sponge drop cookies look like dyed Easter eggs. Really simple to make. I have 6 extra large eggs. Now I find it tastes better, the batter comes out better with extra large eggs. If you're uncomfortable with extra large eggs, by all means use large. But I use extra large. So it's extra large eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now here's the interesting thing about these cookies. I happen to like the vanilla flavor. A lot of people like the licorice anise flavor. You could put a lemon flavor in if you want, orange. Whatever is your taste, do it. 2 teaspoons of it, and then you'll be all set. We have 1 cup of vegetable oil. Not olive oil, just simple, plain old vegetable oil. 1 cup of sugar. And the recipe calls for a pinch of salt. I'm going to put it in now. So while this is whipping up, be nice and frothy, I'm going to get this stuff out of the way because we're done with it. Pardon me for 1 second. We're going to come over here and we're going to get our flour ready. While that's whipping, I have 4 cups of flour in here and 2 tablespoons of baking powder. Baking powder is a leavening ingredient, which means it makes things rise. So I'm going to sift them together. Simple. I used to have one of those sifters, you know, the one that you go like this, but I don't like it because it would make me get Charlie horses in my thumb. Crazy. This is as easy, quite as effective, and I only use this sifter to sift flour or confectionery sugar. So it doesn't even really have to be cleaned that much in between. If you clean it, make sure it's nice and dry before you do any other sifting, because it'll cake. Let's see how we're doing here. I'm going to put this up just a little bit more. You want the color not to be as yellow. You want it to start simmering down a little bit, get a little bit of frothiness, give it a nice texture. When we're ready, which we are, to put the flour in, we're going to do it gradually. So I have it down to, actually I'm going to put it down to stir, and we're going to put in the flour mixture and let it do its thing. It's really a very easy, simple recipe. What's going to happen is your dough is going to be stiff and thick. I used to do this by hand. Hurt my shoulder, so I'm not doing it by hand anymore. But you can certainly do it by hand. You don't need to mix it. As you see, this is only on stir. It's not going to get whipped up. It's just going to combine. We're done with that combine. Okay. I have a sheet pan, half sheet pan, piece of parchment paper. My oven is preset to 400, not 475, jeepers, they'll come out like hockey pucks, 400 degrees. This is done, it's perfect. Wait till you see it. Awesome. It's kind of sticky. Different consistency than you're used to probably for cookies. You want your cookies to come out round and the same color, size, use an ice cream scoop. Ice cream scoops are great for any kind of batter. Cookies, muffins, cupcakes, because you're going to get the same amount, everything will be uniform, and they'll come out looking pretty darn good. Nice and easy. You see how the consistency is kind of a sticky batter? See that? That's what you're looking for. So talk about, while I'm doing this, I want to talk about that winter. Huh? Here, we're in Massachusetts, Boston finally broke the record, which I was hoping for, because jeepers, if we had all those snowstorms, the least we can do is say we had an historic winter, which we certainly did. I was watching the Today Show yesterday, and my buddy Al Roca was saying in Boston, for 9 consecutive weekends, Boston has had some form of snow. And let me tell you something, this past Saturday snowed all day. Didn't accumulate, but it snowed. Ordinarily, with big snowflakes, they were so pretty, and ordinarily I would have looked at it and said, isn't this beautiful? It looks so nice. But I was looking out the window Saturday and I was thinking to myself, yeah, whatever, because the thrill was gone. But we we exceeded 110 inches of snow. Isn't this being fresh? And you know, I should have done this. We can eliminate or minimize that stickiness by putting a tiny bit of water in the scoop. And I should have had a little bowl of water here, but I just didn't think of it. See how much better it came out? And it isn't going to affect the consistency of your cookie. Look at that. So in it goes, 400 degrees for about 8 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer over here at 4 minutes, because otherwise I'm going to forget. And I'll burn them. I want to rotate it. Let's just check the asparagus while we're over here. Nice. I'm going to give it a little shake. See? Nice and simple. I like my vegetables cooked a little bit longer than the pundits say you should. I don't like crunchy asparagus. I like it when it's nice and soft. So I'm going to give those just a few more minutes. All right, we're back over here. Hold on 1 minute while I clean up. We're going to take the chicken. Now, So I don't have to keep turning my back to you. I'm going to put on some gloves because when you handle raw chicken, it's very important that you follow good safety precautions because raw poultry in particular will carry it with it some funky diseases like salmonella and some other things, and it's not a good thing. You don't want anybody to have to deal with that. So we have a chicken breast here. I'm going to show you how to make a thin cutlet. So here's a nice big fat chicken breast. I'm going to cut it right in the middle. This is called butterflying, and you don't want to go all the way through. You're just going to open it up like a book. See? Now I'm going to take another piece of wax paper and put it over. This is called a meat tenderizer. This part here with the spikes actually tenderizes the meat. This flat part is what I'm going to use. I'm going to pound it out so that it's about the same depth. You want about a quarter, about a half an inch through and through. If you don't have one of these, use one of these. You don't have to use this to roll out dough. You can flatten out by pounding on your meat. If you don't have one of those, don't go buy things. Use something else, like the bottom of a frying pan. That will work just as well as any of these tools. So use what you have. Don't go out and make another purchase if you don't have to. Now when you look at the size of this now, you can feed quite easily 2 people with this. So I'm going to take my pounded out delicious chicken cutlet and I'm going to very lightly dust it with a little bit of flour, and that will help it get brown. You like that nice golden brown. Okay, I'm going to go over here with our chicken. I'm going to put in a tablespoon of unsalted butter. And I'm going to take off my gloves now because I don't need it. Put this up to medium-high heat. While we're waiting for the butter to melt, I'm going to season the chicken with a little bit of salt from high. You want to drizzle it from on high, which distributes a minute amount very evenly, and just a tad of pepper. Okay, perfect timing. That's for the cookies. We're going to see now how they look, and I'm going to rotate them. So here they are, halfway baked. Delish. And I'm going to set the timer for 4 more minutes. Now it's also important for you to check the temperature of your oven. Now how do you do that? Well, you don't stick your hand in it. You buy one of these. They're inexpensive, and it's an oven thermometer. And I check my ovens, I have 2, fairly frequently, just to make sure that it's calibrated correctly. This big one is calibrated perfectly. I don't have to make any kind of adjustment to my setting to accommodate the temperature that I want. This one here runs 25 degrees higher than it says, or than it's supposed to. So I compensate by setting my thermometer, my thermostat, 25 degrees lower than what I want it to be. This is 375 is what it should be. I have this set at 350. Let's take a look because I can smell them. Okay. I'm going to take these out because when you're cooking something, it's going to cook a few more minutes on its own. And to me, that's perfect. They're not burnt. They're evenly cooked. I can't wait to eat them. I love asparagus. Love asparagus. Okay, so we're ready now. It's foamy. The butter is foamy. And we're going to take our chicken cutlet and we're going to put it in. We're going to let it sit for 2, maybe 3 minutes on each side to cook it through. Then we'll make our sauce. The sauce, brandy sauce, kind of feel funny going into the liquor store to get a half a pint or a pint of brandy. I want you to see the shape of it so that you can fit it in your back pocket. But I always announce when I go to buy it, oh, this is just for cooking, because I don't want them to think I'm a brandy lush. Although it smells pretty good. I might want to take a sip of it, but it'll give me a hot flash for sure. But when you're cooking with brandy, it's a strong liquor when you taste it, when you sip it. I like the flavor of brandy, but when you cook with it, the flavor of the brandy really gets subtle, and it just lends itself to a wonderful, wonderful, delicious flavor. So the original recipe that I'm using today originally called for steak. Well, I made it last week for a large group of people, and steak was not in the budget. So I changed the recipe and I put in pork roast. I made a big, huge pork roast that I roasted, of course, and then we cut it into slices, and I made the sauce to go with it. And it came out perfectly. It was delicious. So now I'm going to change it up a little bit more, and I'm using chicken this time instead of using the pork. So why I'm telling you this is because I want you to be able to experiment. You see a recipe you like most of it, but you want to change it up a little bit, go for it. It's really okay. Change it. And that's the only way you're going to make a recipe suited to you. And I say to myself, well, if you don't like certain things, because some people don't want red meat, but they like chicken or they like pork, I would even hazard a guess that if you take this procedure with a piece of fish, nice halibut, flounder, haddock, and you cook it and make the same sauce, it's still going to taste delicious. So what you're looking for is kind of a consistency in the flavoring. So let's take a look. Wow, the cookies are done. Beautiful. This is a nice golden brown. So I'm going to take that out, and now I'm going to shut off my oven and take my cookies out. What did I do with, here it is. I always lose the pot holders. Always. And I have them all over my kitchen, and I still can't find them. So let's take a look at these babies. Aren't they adorable? Don't they look like eggs? And they're spongy. So we're going to let them cool. This thing's cooking. To go with the cookies, let's go back over here for a quick minute or two. We're going to make a glaze. And one of the nice things about these cookies is, again, I told you, it's supposed to look like dyed Easter eggs. So you can make them any color you want. So I think because I'm a girl and it's spring, I'm going to make it pink. So I have a cup of confectionery sugar. I'm going to take a little bit of milk, a little bit of vanilla, and some cooking coloring, food coloring. I'm just going to put a little bit in. Little will do you. A little bit of this. I'm going to make it pink. So I'm going to get the red out, and I'm going to put a couple of drops in. A little goes a long way. 1, 2, 3. Give it a stir. So, this has to get lowered, and I think This little guy is done. So I want to lower this. Multitasking, people. Look at that. Woo, baby, that's great. I'm going to put another tablespoon of butter in. Throw in a tablespoon of shallots. I'm going to let those cook down, get soft. So we're going to go back over here. I think I need a little bit more milk. You always err on the side of less is more, because you can always add ingredients. In this case, I have to add some more milk. If you make it too loose, then it's just going to run all over the place. Here we go. That's it. Also, for the glaze, I put vanilla in. If you want to put a different flavor in, go by all means do it. I made maple flavored one time. It's kind of fun. Not what I would have expected. Tasted great. So use your imagination, suit your flavors, and have a good time with it. I'm just going to get a plate, and I'm going to get some of these pre-cooked, because you want them to cool. Those are too hot. I'm going to go back over here for a minute. The shallots are cooking, so I'm going to throw in some of that brandy I was showing you earlier. So we got the brandy because we want the brandy to boil down. You want the flavor. You don't necessarily want the alcohol. So you're going to boil it off. And that's reducing really well. Then you're going to take some diced tomatoes. And you're going to put them in your sauce. You're going to let that cook. So let this cook for a few minutes. We're going to come right back over here, but let it cook. You can squash down the tomatoes if you want. I'm going to leave them like a dice. Okay, so we're back to the cookies. Pink because I'm a girl, and it's one of my favorite colors. And that is how you frost your sponge drop cookies. Easy, simple, delicious. And it adds, this is not a sweet batter. There's only 1 cup of sugar used for 4 cups of flour. So it's not at all sweet. So this gives it a little bit more sweetness while keeping it somewhat at bay. Great with a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or even a cup of milk. But there you go. Sponge drop cookies. Ready to rock and roll. Now, back over here. Sauce is great. Pièce de résistance, we're going to put in some heavy cream. Probably 2 or 3 tablespoons. Gonna mix it up, cook it for another minute or 2. Delicious, look at it. Oh man, taste it. Really good. Need some salt. Think like a cook. Taste and adjust the seasonings. So, we have deliciousness. Okay, here we go. I already took a plate. So we have our asparagus. Put it on your plate. Have a nice meal. Take your sauce. Pour it over. Brandy cream sauce. How's that, huh? Telling you. So what you have is a fabulous meal in 30 minutes or less. You have delicious, easy chicken cutlet with this wonderful brandy sauce over it, roasted asparagus, sponge drop cookies. That's a spring meal, ever said. Come home from work, you're tired, whip it up in a half hour, you got it cooked, and you're ready to sit down and eat. So that's it from us. I think I mentioned, that's it for the meal, but I did want to talk to you about a couple of things. I have read tips, tasty tips from me. So I think I told you before about the aluminum foil that keeps your produce nice and fresh, particularly the celery and cucumbers. Now, I have some celery in here that I have for, oh gosh, we're about a month now, and I'm still using it. I'm still munching on it. It still crunches like it's brand spanking new. It's delicious. So don't be afraid to use your tin foil. Kind of goes against what you think. One other thing, cheese. Now, how do you keep cheese nice? You buy a block of cheddar and you want to keep it nice. Guess what you're going to use? Aluminum foil! Really? Yep, you're going to use aluminum foil. What that does is it keeps the air out, because air is what causes things to get moldy and to dry out. And the other thing with cheese, if it gets a little moldy, the nice thing about it is you just cut it off. Cut that part off and use the rest of it. So you don't need to waste things if you don't need to. You don't want to waste things. Now, you saw me, and we have a dairy allergy in this family. So I try to make everything as non-allergenic as possible. So you saw me making this glaze, and I used silk. Now, they also have almond milk, there's coconut milk out there. So you can substitute any kind of non-dairy product for a milk. It gives it a little bit of a different flavor, but it isn't going to kill anybody, and it's going to give you the same effect. As a matter of fact, I have even made clam chowder using silk, and it's come out delicious. So try things. You see something that doesn't suit your dietary needs, modify it to do that. Do not be afraid. So here we go. 30 minutes or less, you have roasted asparagus, chicken cutlet with delicious brandy cream sauce, and a dessert in less than 30 minutes. Huh? Can you beat it? You can't. You can't beat that. So, until next time, I'm Claudia Donnell for That's Tasty. Happy cooking, happy eating.